Someone just told you something. You heard it. You understood it. You even nodded. And then it was gone. A name, an instruction, a number, a task someone asked you to do 5 minutes ago. You walk into a room and forget why you went there. You read the same paragraph 3 times and retain nothing. You leave a conversation and cannot recall what was actually said. Most people assume this is a memory problem, or a focus problem, or just getting older. But the neuroscience tells a completely different story. Your brain is not failing to remember. It is actively choosing what to keep and what to discard. And in the modern world, the rules it uses to make that decision are working against you. Next, we're going to break down exactly why this happens, the specific brain mechanism responsible, and what you can change today to make information actually stick. The first thing you need to understand is a system in your brain called working memory. Working memory is not your long-term memory. It is not storage. Think of it as your brain's clipboard, a temporary holding space for information you are actively using right now. In the 1950s, cognitive psychologist George Miller published a landmark paper showing that the average human working memory can hold approximately 7 items at once, plus or minus 2. More recent research has revised this number even lower, to around 4 chunks of information at a time. When you receive new information and your working memory is already at capacity, even if that capacity is just 4 items, something gets pushed out. Not filed away, not archived, dropped entirely. This is why you forget a name immediately after being introduced. In that moment, your working memory was already occupied with social processing, reading the person's face, thinking about what to say next, managing your own expression. There was no room for the name. It never made it in. This is not a character flaw. This is a hard biological limit that every human being has. The difference between people who seem to have good memory and those who don't is not capacity. It is the strategies they use to work within that limit. The second reason you forget things immediately is called an encoding failure. And this is where modern life is doing the most damage. For any piece of information to move from working memory into long-term storage, your brain must encode it. This means the hippocampus, your brain's memory consolidation center, must process the information and link it to something already stored. Encoding requires 2 things: attention and meaning. Your brain encodes information that it perceives as relevant, emotionally significant, or connected to something you already know. Information that arrives without attention or without context gets flagged as low priority and discarded within seconds. Here is the critical modern problem. Multitasking and constant digital stimulation have trained your brain to process information at a shallow level. When you are half listening to someone while also monitoring your phone, your email, or the next thought in your head, the encoding signal for what they're saying is weak, too weak to create a durable memory trace. Research from Stanford University found that heavy media multitaskers were significantly worse at filtering irrelevant information and performed worse on working memory tasks compared to light multitaskers. Not because they lacked intelligence, but because their brains had been trained to process everything shallowly. Every time you split your attention, you are not processing 2 things at half capacity. You are processing both things at a fraction of the depth needed to form a memory. The result is that most of what you experience on a busy, distracted day leaves no lasting trace at all. There is a third mechanism at work, and this one explains something very specific: why you can remember something and then, minutes later, it's gone. It is called interference theory, and it comes in 2 forms. The first is proactive interference. This is when old information interferes with new information. If you have known someone called David for years and you meet a new person also called David, your brain's existing David memory actively competes with and suppresses the new one. The second is retroactive interference. This is when new information wipes out something you just learned. You receive an instruction, then immediately receive 3 more instructions, and the first one is gone. Each new input interferes with the encoding of everything that came before it. This is why checking your phone immediately after someone tells you something virtually guarantees you will forget what they said. The visual and cognitive input from the phone creates retroactive interference that overwrites the verbal instruction before it has had time to consolidate. Neuroscientist Robert Bjork at UCLA has spent decades studying this mechanism. His research shows that the brain requires a brief period of uninterrupted processing, called consolidation time, immediately after receiving information for that information to stabilize into memory. Interrupt that window, and the memory is lost. Now that you understand the three mechanisms, working memory limits, encoding failure, and interference, the fixes become obvious. You are not trying to improve your memory capacity. You are working with your brain's actual architecture. 1. The 10-second rule after receiving information. When someone tells you something important, give yourself 10 seconds of uninterrupted processing before responding or doing anything else. Do not reach for your phone. Do not begin your reply immediately. Let the information consolidate. 10 seconds of silence feels awkward, but it is the difference between storing the information and losing it permanently. 2. Say the name or information out loud immediately. When you are introduced to someone, use their name immediately in your next sentence. Great to meet you, Sarah, rather than just great to meet you. When you receive an instruction, repeat it back in your own words. This forces your brain to actively encode the information rather than passively receive it. Active encoding creates a memory trace 3 to 5 times stronger than passive listening. 3. Write one line immediately. You do not need to take elaborate notes. Research on the generation effect shows that the act of writing even a single sentence forces your brain to process information at a deeper level than simply hearing or reading it. Keep a small notepad or use your phone's notes app. One line written immediately after receiving important information doubles your recall rate 24 hours later. 4. Reduce input before important conversations. Your working memory enters every conversation already partially loaded with whatever you were processing beforehand. Before any meeting, call, or conversation that matters, give yourself 60 to 90 seconds of mental quiet. Put the phone away, close the tabs, let your working memory clear. You will arrive with more cognitive space available for encoding, and you will remember significantly more of what is discussed. 5. Sleep. This is non-negotiable. Working memory capacity drops by up to 40% after even one night of poor sleep. Encoding efficiency falls sharply. Interference effects become stronger. If you are consistently forgetting things, the single most impactful intervention is improving your sleep. As we covered in our last video, the hippocampus consolidates memories almost exclusively during deep sleep. Without it, even the information that did encode during the day will not transfer to long-term storage. You are not forgetful. You are overloaded. Your brain has a working memory limit of 4 items. It requires attention and meaning to encode anything. It needs uninterrupted consolidation time to stabilize new information, and it is operating in an environment that violates every one of those conditions, dozens of times every hour. The people who seem to have exceptional memories are not biologically different from you. They have simply, consciously or not, built habits that work with their brain's architecture instead of against it. That is a learnable skill, not a fixed trait. If this video gave you a clearer picture of how your memory actually works, subscribe to VPOD Brain. Every week we break down the real neuroscience behind how your mind operates. No motivation, no wellness trends, just the research. Next time someone tells you something important, pause, repeat it. Write one line. 10 seconds of intention is worth more than 1,000 good intentions. We'll see you in the next one.